this thumbnail here. We're going to start in just a second, just making sure everything's actually connected. Let's do it. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to our Thursday training. We're excited about this one. Well, you know, I always say that we're excited about this one every single time.
But we are.
We are excited about this one. So before I dive into that, my name is Curtis Johnson. I'm the president managed by Stats, and I am joined by none other than
Mark Jepson.
Mr. Mark Jepson, COO managed by Stats, as well as a bunch of other things. He's an accomplished Amazon seller. I could go on for hours and make him very uncomfortable, but I won't. We enjoy doing this. So what we're going to go over with you guys today is something that we've been putting together for a couple days now. That's we've been working on it for a lot longer than that. But definitely, you know, we want to help you guys go into Q4 aggressively. And sometimes that requires relaunching products, even though, you know, they're already there, but you can go at it as if you're relaunching, basically, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Mark has a bunch that he's kind of prepared that dives into this, and we're gonna walk you guys through all those points, and definitely let us know along the way if you have any questions, you know, kind of how he's implemented some of this stuff and how to use it for your business. So without any further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Mark.
Sounds good. Thanks, Curtis. So yeah, basically relaunching efforts or launching or relaunching efforts going into Q4. We definitely want to make sure that your products are, you know, pushed up the rankings as much as possible, so that when we have that high volume of traffic coming through, you're getting a lot of that organic traffic due to your rankings. So just put together 5 strategies that are very smart. A lot of people are doing them. Some people aren't. You might be thinking with one aspect of this thing, but maybe not the other aspect of it. So I thought I would share these, and if they help, awesome. So let's go ahead and share my screen.
All right, you should be good to go.
Perfect. Okay, so the first one is Facebook with ManyChat. ManyChat is definitely, as many people know, it's a awesome tool to help funnel people to your products. There's multiple different ways that you can use ManyChat. I mean, you know, just our partners, Titan, and they did a webinar with EasyBot the other day.
Yeah, with Michelle, right?
Yeah, with Michelle.
Yeah, it was with Michelle.
And you know, great content. You know, I've been using EasyBot and some other ones. The importance of ManyChat is no doubt kind of one of the main characters of doing a launch. You can do it other ways. There's of course other ways to do it, but ManyChat makes it very easy to do a lot of the different launch efforts that you want to do. So this first one is Facebook with ManyChat, and the first aspect is, you know, ManyChat. There's a lot to learn about ManyChat, so you can go at it where you're just gonna get a ManyChat account and build out the flows yourself, and you know, or get a template from a friend or from an agency or from, you know, a company of some sort, and implement, you know, adjust that template to be for your product and kind of do what you want to do. One little tip is you know, using the chat agency or EasyBot. 2 great companies to give you some good templates. So you can actually just take those and modify them to your products and to how you want to, you know, what kind of launch strategy you want to do. Definitely a smart thing to do. Kind of saves all the time of having to learn and build and all the minutia of a ManyChat flow. So the first aspect is, okay, you need to create a Facebook ad that's going to be going to this ManyChat flow. And when you have a Facebook ad, you can do this in multiple different ways. But kind of the first kind of general way is you want to, of course, find people that are interested in your product. So when you have a Facebook ad, you're going to build it out. You're going to go after an audience that's going to be, you know, interested in blah product or that category of products. That's the first point. But when you're doing that, you can narrow that down a little bit tighter in. Throughout the years, it's been a constant point of proven, what do you call it? I don't know. It's just it's been proven that if you narrow down your niche or narrow down the interest that you're going after in Facebook, you don't want to go too small where your list is not going to, your ad's not going to show to a lot of people. But if you can narrow down to a very good niche of people that are that exact interest, you can get a lot of good conversions in there.
Yeah, so, just like honing in on your audience. Basically.
Exactly. So a key point of that Managed by Stats can help you with is your audience, who kind of where you want to target these people. So of course you can have interests, so you can narrow it down to an interest, but then you can also narrow it down to certain states that you want to go after. So in this case, I'm using the GeoAnalyze tool inside of Managed by Stats to see where are all of my sales coming from. And I can see, these top three, California, Florida, and New York. Those are the main areas where I'm getting the majority of my sales. And so I can go, okay, good. Let me do this Facebook ad to that area, so I can hone in on, the population of people that want to, that majorly have that interest or whatever, right? So in addition to the interest, you can also hone in with the geoanalytics to actually go after that particular area. So that's one point that you can kind of look into. Sorry.
Now we know all your apps.
Yes. I have
Secrets
many.
out.
So when you create that Facebook ad, you can narrow it down to a good audience that's going to be potentially, the right kind of people, and narrowing it down to not just everyone all over the world, because maybe someone in Arkansas is not going to want, your whatever, right? So that's the first aspect. And then of course you need to create that ManyChat flow that'll walk people through your launch or relaunch steps. So whatever that sequence is, whether you're doing a rebate, a discount, a social media discount, or just a search, find, buy, and something, whatever that funnel is or whatever that flow is, you want to make sure, of course, they're going to your Amazon product and buying. So those agencies that I mentioned earlier, the chat agency and EasyBot, they have some great templates that you can kind of pick from and modify that help you do that. Of course, once you've done that, you now want to see, as you get that launch, you have your Facebook ad going, it's people sending people over to that ManyChat flow, they're going and buying your product, and that launch effort is happening. You want to make sure that what you're doing is enough. So many tools out there will talk about, how many sales do you need to have in order to get that keyword, to get ranking on that keyword, right? So you need to have a sufficient volume over a sufficient amount of time in order to get that ranking for that keyword. And you need to be able to see if you're getting enough sales through those launch efforts to get your ranking showing up or get consistent ranking improved. So one of the things that we built actually for Titan is this launch tracker, and this is something they teach inside of their system, where you basically are looking at all the key metrics for your launch effort. And there's a lot out there, so we basically compiled it all into one screen, and we have all the stuff automatically being imported from your Amazon account. So here you can see this is just an old launch that I did. It shows you the days of the launch and of course the days of the month. And then here it's showing you your total revenue, your sales, your price. So if you're changing your price, let's say you start out very low and you increase it over time, it's going to show you what your price is. So it automatically pulls that in. How many reviews you have. So obviously this was a relaunch effort that I was doing for this product. Your star rating, very important factor. If you have a bad star rating or it goes down or whatever, you know that your launch effort's going to be a lot harder. Your sessions, session percent, and ad spend, this is all automatically imported. There can be a 2-day delay on the sessions because of the reports that come in and how Amazon attributes stuff to sales and whatnot. There could be a slight delay, but you can also manually enter stuff in here as well if you know the numbers and you want to do that. Otherwise, it just automatically comes in after 2 days, the last day here. But then you can see your ad spend, how much you're spending, ad spend per unit. So you can actually see, okay, per unit sale, how much ad spend were you doing? So that way, also, if you're not doing a rebate or coupon or whatever, launch system, but you're just doing, ads, PPC, there is, things you can do on PPC to launch your product. smart ways to go about that. I would say probably not as smart as a ManyChat flow or this stuff. There's definitely some better ways to do it with ManyChat. But if you are just doing PPC, you can actually see, okay, in here, how much you're spending per unit sale. And then you have, of course, an option here to enter in your codes. So when you're doing a launch, generally you want to give out, a certain amount of codes. If you're doing a discount or rebates or whatever it is that you're doing, you want to give out a certain amount per day in order to make sure that that launch effort is going to be done correctly. So you can list those here. And then our system will automatically see any one-time use coupon codes.
Sorry, Mark, go over that last part again. I switched away from your screen share.
Okay.
Just so they can see that.
Yeah, so here's codes distributed. Perfect. So this is the, basically if you're going to say, I'm going to give out 10 codes per day, you can put that in here. And if that's what you set in your system, you can just note that in here. And then here, codes redeemed. This our system will automatically see any codes that are a unique, one-time use code. So if you do a social media code or a one-time use code, it'll pull in those codes and you'll actually see them. It'll disregard like the free shipping type discounts that you can set up and other kind of automatic discounts that you can set up. It'll disregard those, so it'll only find these kind of unique codes that you should be giving out. So it'll show that in here. You show your redemption percentage of those. And then, of course, rebate orders. So here you can enter in how many actually that you're giving out. So if you did rebates or some kind of coupon system or whatever it is that you're doing, you can put in there, okay, I know that I delivered 2 this day or 5 this day or 7 this day. You can put them in there. And now you're going to see at the end of the day here, the effectiveness of your launch actions. So here you can see PPC sales. So of your total sales, you can see that on this day here, there's 2 PPC sales. That's 7%. Organic sales is 15 at 56%. And if we look at the total number of sales is 27 here, and that's because I had 10 that were rebate orders. So now you can see out of all your total sales, 15% of them were organic, 2% were PPC, and the other 10 units were for rebates or for your launch efforts. So here you get a good idea of is what you're doing effective or not? But then you can also look at, okay, that volume, is that enough to get that keyword pushed up, right? So if you're doing, if you need to have, 8 sales a day in order to actually get that keyword ranked, you can look, okay, am I getting 8 sales a day? If it's a very competitive keyword, you might need, 25 or 30 sales a day. Okay, are you getting that many sales per day? And if not, you need to then increase your efforts, whatever you're doing. So this is a very, very simple tracker. Shows you all the key metrics of what you need to look at. And that will kind of help you just analyze whether or not that flow or that launch effort or relaunch effort is doing what it needs to be doing.
Now, I guess in many ways, someone could do this without a launch tracker. It's just more manual entry, basically.
Absolutely, and that's what Titan started out with. A big Excel spreadsheet told you, what things to grab, where to grab them from, and put them into your Excel document. It's just a lot of manual work, so we just kind of automated the whole process. Okay, so that's that. That's analyzing your stuff. Tying into that is also a keyword tracker, of course. Pull it up here. So obviously if you're pushing on a certain keyword, watching your rankings, seeing if you actually are going up the rankings or not. There's multiple different scenarios that could happen on this, but kind of the 2 general scenarios that if you're pushing hard enough and effective enough, you should see within 7 to 10 days your rankings start to go up. If you have a very competitive niche or a very competitive product, or you have a lot of other competitors that are jumping into the market and they're being very aggressive on their PPC or their other, their ranking efforts, you could see a scenario where your ranking will dip for the first few days and then hopefully around 7, 8, 9 days start to go back up or start to go up and then continue to go up if you're pushing hard enough. And the reason for that is you could be being, let's say you're doing ads. In this case, we'll take the ads scenario. If you're doing PPC ads, you could be pushing really hard on those ads, and same thing with your competitors. But your ads might be you might get for a couple days some bad conversions. So with those bad conversions, obviously will affect your ranking, and your ranking will drop a little bit. Ideally, you want your product to be good enough so that it can get good conversion rate and have it start going up again. That's something to just think with when you're doing your launch. If you're doing, a ManyChat flow and you're getting a whole bunch of people driven to your product and they're getting, 100% conversion rate, that's probably going to just take your ranking and just and have it start going up.
Yeah, especially with the way that Amazon values that kind of traffic. Like, it's not just, hey, they look at it from the perspective, hey, you're driving people who possibly have not been regular shoppers on Amazon before.
Right.
So they love that kind of traffic, and they're going to treat it better than they do pretty much anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They love external traffic. They give you little brownie points somewhere in their A10 system. They give you some brownie points. So it's that's why this Facebook ManyChat kind of funnels that a lot of people are talking about are very effective, because they're driving in that external traffic to your listing on Amazon, and Amazon wants that. They want to acquire more and more of that Google, Facebook, other search engine audiences. Okay, so that's that.
And then one thing before we dive on to the next thing, we have someone asking, is email append still possible, as the client's data provided by Amazon is very limited? Mark's over there chuckling. I'm chuckling. Long and the short answer. So short answer is I've been talking to Steve over at Bullfrog Data, and they have something that they're working on to get everything stably up from this point forward. Currently, they're running into a hiccup. So I know that if you go back, I think it was end of August or something. Is that right?
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, so any transactions, like let's say you're a Managed by Stats customer, if you have any of those transactions end of August going back and you haven't used those, you haven't gotten the email, phone number, street level address, all that information, you still can get that. But they've definitely had a little bit of a hiccup from basically beginning of September to now. Yeah. But Steve was telling me 95% sure that they're going to have a stable,
that's definitely the plan. And it's funny because we're actually going to tie into that in later on in this in these slides here. But so it's something they're working on diligently, and so far we're hearing promising communication, but we'll see at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's an area of contention.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
Okay, good. So let's go to the next strategy here, which is a Facebook custom audience. So now this is basically a slight tweak on the earlier strategy, where you are, you're trying to find basically new people and bring them in. What you can do now to get a little bit more honed in on your audience is create a custom audience in Facebook. And this kind of ties into what's being done with Bullfrog Data, where if you have your actual audience names and addresses, and if you have their email address, then creating a custom audience on Facebook is going to give you a high match rate on the Facebook ad. So
it's one thing we should actually bring up here, because it's sort of spurred along by this question. But if some of you out there, if your only method of getting the email address, phone number, contact info for your guys, or for the people who are buying from you, is potentially email appends, you're probably missing out on strategies that you should be using. Like, you guys should have inserts in your products that give something that's actually of value to them, not just saying, hey, give us a 5-star review. Right. Or what's another one that's really not going to get anything from them? Give us some feedback. Let us know. Or here's a warranty. Like, warranty's questionable depending on what the product is, but you got to come up with a really good idea that's going to get them to actually want to give their email address and phone number over to you.
And there's a lot of smart marketer type people out there that have come up with some great ideas on this. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to become, a marketing genius. Follow the geniuses. There's a lot out there. Great ideas on how to kind of set it up smartly. going with Amazon TOS, so you're not, violating TOS in any way, but you're still, getting that leg up. You're still being something that's on the cutting edge, type of aspect. And yeah.
I guess part of what they could do is if you go back to even one of those earlier slides where you were talking about chat agency and then EasyBot, I'm sure both of them have tons of strategies that you can utilize that cover that same exact point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do. I definitely know that they talk about some of those strategies in there. So they probably even have templates for some of those.
Yeah, because it's kind of the precursor to most of their strategies.
Right.
Yeah. Just as kind of like a covering this point in case anyone's like, oh shoot, email appends is done, so I can't follow up with my customers ever again, which isn't the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then back to this. So now custom audiences, if you have the data from Managed by Stats, and you actually have that data imported back into your customer list, you can download a customer list from Managed by Stats, upload it into Facebook, and now you have a custom audience that you can then go after. In addition to that, you can do a lookalike audience to that audience. So you have, let's say, 50,000, 75,000 customers, and they've all purchased from you. Now you can go, okay, you can target that list of people with an ad of some sort, and then you can also create a lookalike audience to that list, and it'll find now people that are new customers that have similar interests to your prior customers. So that's definitely another way to kind of hone in on interests. So instead of having to just go, anyone who likes dog collars or anyone who likes water bottles or whatever it is, right? You can hone in a lot.
There's a group of people who specifically say, I really like dog collars.
Right. Dog enthusiasts, blah, blah, blah,
yes,
right? But
sure,
it's like, instead of having to go in and kind of go through all the little minutia of the Facebook setup, Facebook ad setup of finding that audience and drilling down, and there's a technique on how to do that smartly and whatnot. Okay, bypass that whole thing. Just create a lookalike audience to that custom audience, and then now you have a very targeted list of people that will also change and evolve over time. So you could have that as an evergreen, constantly going ad that is pushing people to your launch efforts. So that's another way to do that. And then of course, make sure that Facebook ad is sending them to your ManyChat flow, and then of course track your products to make sure, or track your launch to make sure that it's actually being effective. You're getting enough of those people through that funnel. Okay, so that's the kind of the slight variation on that. Helps you kind of hone in a lot more into that. Now, one thing inside of Managed by Stats that helps you kind of do that is we actually do have a synchronization tool. Let's see, where do I have that? Here? Yeah. So here you can basically synchronize your contacts to Facebook or MailChimp and have that list constantly growing. So that's what we're doing here. I have a Facebook audience, I have MailChimp lists, and I'm constantly uploading those names in there. Another aspect to that, which you can actually do in Facebook, is you can actually, if you don't have, let's say, the names inside of Managed by Stats, and you can't, upload it through here, you can actually connect up MailChimp to Facebook. So you can say, okay, I want to create a custom audience in Facebook, and you can select MailChimp as the source, and it'll take your MailChimp list if you have that already, and it'll automatically import that list. So if you have people constantly signing up on your website that's adding to your MailChimp list, it will constantly feed that connection to Facebook. So that's another way to do that. But setting that up in here, you can do that easily, and it now then is constantly updating that Facebook ad or that MailChimp list. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one here. This is basically a slight variation of the Facebook to ManyChat flow. Now you're basically just using Google. There's a little bit more. You have to kind of know the intricacies of Google Ad Manager. You have to have a Google Ads account, blah, 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 a business manager account to do all that stuff. There's some setups to do there, but if you can get it up and running really fast and easy, you can do a very simple Google ad. It doesn't have to be, you know, flashy. It's just, you know, the going to Gmail and to, you know, Google Shopping type platforms. That's another way to kind of bolster that whole flow. It's another external source going to your Amazon account, right? So Amazon definitely loves those external traffic into their system. So definitely think with that. Again, similar to Facebook, but you have to kind of do those little. You have to have a little bit more setup in there, and then of course directing them to a ManyChat flow or to your product. So
you know, one thing on that too is we have a good agency that we've done a lot of work with, Eden Court Advertising, and we have Adam actually coming in studio tomorrow to record direct marketing as well as lookalike. So basically the two kind of things that we're covering here that Mark's covering very high level, Adam's going to go in and walk you through each of the kind of setup processes that go through that, and you'll see a blog with that video coming from us basically in this next week. I think the first one we're going to cover is direct, and then following week we'll cover lookalike. Cool. I've just committed us to that. So damn, better get that done, right? But yeah, so I'm sure that some of you guys are like, okay, cool, that's a great high-level overview, but you know, how do I do this? Especially with Google, it's a little bit more complicated. Yeah,
but you'll get that minute detail breakdown in that video.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts. We'll break it down so you can actually go step by step. They're also phenomenal as an agency. So if you're looking for something, Eden Court Advertising, I'll throw a link to them in the description, but they're definitely a great resource for that.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go to the next one here, which is custom email sequences. So this ties into, of course, having your customer list. Now, a lot of Managed by Stats customers took advantage of that, and there's still some how do I say this? There's still some Managed by Stats clients who can take advantage of this. So if you have interest in it, definitely reach out, support@managedbystats.com, because there could be a little opportunity for you there, in addition to what Bullfrog Data is working on getting a whole new system set up. So basically in this strategy, you're basically using a email marketing tool to constantly build your brand. And the thought process here is you're basically taking that custom audience, putting it into one of these services or some other service. This is just three kind of the bigger ones, MailChimp, Aweber, and Klaviyo. Putting them in there and running them through an actual campaign, an actual sequence of emails that gives value-add content to these guys, gives them little perks here and there, something that just keeps that list hot, keeps that list warm, keeps them interested in your brand, and every once in a while seeing your email pop up and going, oh yeah, they have blah thing now, or oh yeah, I should get blah for Mother's Day, or whatever it is, right? You want to have an actual sequence of emails built out ahead of time that you can automate, and now your audience, as you're getting new signups from your website or new email appends or whatever it is coming into that list, they're just now going through that flow, and you now have built out a nice system. So key steps here is, this obviously takes a lot more setup. So a lot of people kind of maybe don't take the effort to go through with
they kind of skip this stuff, which is
it's something that if you take 2 weeks and really just concentrate on getting that set up, it's another set and forget, or set and forget, but then also you're adding to it, but it's a lot easier to add to it once you've set up the initial thing. And it's powerful. A lot of people that I've talked to, and a lot of people over the years who've done this, some people only use this as a launch strategy. They're not having to pay Facebook ads, they're not having to pay Google ads, they're not doing PPC. They just launch to their list, and that's you're saving a bunch of money there. You're targeting your existing clientele who already know you already know they have interest in your products, and you can just launch to them, and boom, every new product that you come out with, you have a huge clientele list that you can use to get that initial burst of sales, reviews, whatever, right? So
actually, and here's another thing on this that is worth saying, I would say. Like, sometimes your business can at times feel like you're having to, by design, do like the irreducible minimum. But it's only kind of like an initial thing, because kind of like you're pointing out there, it's like if you go through the steps of actually getting people who are looking for things about your subject matter, finding any information about you, or you've gone that extra mile, you set up whatever email marketing campaign, and you start putting valuable content out there, you start to build this community. And even more than that, though, like let's say you start a blog or you do videos on something related to this product, the difference is like, yeah, fine, it might take more effort, one, and it might not generate much in the way of any traffic in the beginning, but if you're doing your proper keyword research, you're writing blogs that actually generate interest from the audience surrounding your product, people who would likely, like, let's say you have a tent, and you start a blog about camping, and you generate this large following. The people who are going to be interested in that blog are obviously campers. Do campers like tents?
Yes.
Last time I checked. But the point is, like, it's a lot more work. But the difference is, if you have this inbound traffic coming to you, you write a blog like that, you start to gain followers and you start to gain, interest. You don't have to pay for that again. You don't have to keep writing that same blog over and over again. Whereas with Facebook ads, Google ads, PPC on Amazon, you're paying for that every single
instant.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you never stop. You're renting traffic versus buying traffic. A great book on this is Inbound Marketing. The names are, leaving me, but they're the CEO and the co-founder, I think it was the CTO of HubSpot. They wrote this book called Inbound Marketing. It's phenomenal. It's definitely worth reading. But it's covering this topic, and it's covering important things like what we're talking about here. Like, if you don't set up all of these aspects, you're constantly playing catch up.
Right.
You're just trying to stay on top.
Right.
Yeah.
And the long run effect is you're building your own audience, you're building your own list, and you're making it so that you do some work ahead of time, and now it just flows. So some key points on this: basically, find a writer. If you don't like writing, I don't like writing. If you don't like writing, find a writer that you like, and then get them to create, what I say is 12. 12 is a kind of a good number. Value add content emails. So you're basically thinking with, 12 weeks worth of content that you can have as a funnel or a sequence of emails that your list is going to now be going through. You'll, of course, build these into your email system, whatever you're using, and then you gradually import your customers into that MailChimp system, or that email system, and you start putting that audience through that email sequence. And now you have, you put them in this week, and now you have 12 weeks that worth of content that first chunk of people is now going through, and you gradually add them into that email sequence. So your audience is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're all going through that 12 weeks. And now your writer can write a blog once a week, and or some kind of content once a week, and add it to that sequence. And you just have this ever-growing sequence that all your people are going through. So whenever you have someone subscribing to your website, or you get some kind of contact information for your customers, they're automatically being imported into that email system, and then they're automatically going through that email sequence. And this is powerful. You could have BOGOs in there. You can have launching new products. You can have sending people to your website, whatever it is that you want to do, you can build that into it, and you now have just valuable content going to your customer list. So this is a very powerful system. It does take some setup, but I think we're going to be coming out with a PDF on this soon that kind of walks you through all this stuff with some templates as well. So very powerful sequence that you can use. All right, next we have email with ManyChat, and this is kind of the hybrid of this. And this is something that I think people are now starting to get into, because it's a you know, if you think about launching or relaunching or doing launching efforts, and you go through all the effort to get 50, 100 sales or 150 sales with that launch effort, going after certain keywords, doing whatever kind of rebates or discounts or whatever you're doing to do that launch effort. There's a lot of prep work and checking and verifying and whatever it is that you're doing to push all that through. It's a lot of work. It's not, when you're doing a launch, you're not just clicking a button and walking away. You're constantly checking it every day. So one thing that you can do that can bolster the longevity of your launch without having to go through all that effort, of course, you need to do some work at a time. You need to have an email sequence, right? So you're setting up an email sequence. You need to have a ManyChat sequence, template of some sort. And in that email sequence, you have basically a similar version of your launch or relaunch flow in ManyChat, where you now have a customer comes in on week 1, and maybe on week 6, he then gets an email with a link to a ManyChat. That ManyChat bot walks him through buying blah product, whether it's a different product or another one of that same product, or a new product or whatever it is. That person then is now walking through that search, find, buy, or that whatever kind of rebate system you set up. That launch now is going to be prolonged. You're not going to be paying a Facebook ad. You're not going to be paying for some other efforts to get people through that flow. You're just going to be, that email will go to that person. He'll see it at blah time, whatever, that week, the next week, whatever it is. He sees that, he goes through it, and now you have someone doing a search for a blah keyword that's important to your ranking, and now you get that kind of organic. You're getting these little organic, little nuggets being thrown into Amazon for your listing at random times. So it's not just all concentrated in that 30 days or 45-day honeymoon period or whatever you're doing. You have these little sprinkles of nuggets, from however much volume, however big your list is. You're going to have a percentage of those people going through that flow, and boom, you're getting these little nuggets added to your listing. So every once in a while, you'll get these little spikes because you have these awesome conversions going in for blah keyword, that's very organic and not just scrunched into a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. So very powerful kind of synchronization of those two factors, where you have your email sequence set up, you are have all those people going through that flow, and you just sprinkle in that flow your ManyChat sequences. So you can have a launch, a relaunch. If you have a new product, you can kind of take that, create a little email sequence, throw it in between that sequence somewhere, and now everyone who's going through that sequence, the next people that will get that next email are boom, there you go. That's your launch. Yeah. And these are all people that are going to be used to seeing your emails, used to seeing your content. They haven't unsubscribed. You know what I mean? Like they're existing buyers of yours or whatever. So a very powerful strategy is kind of the last one here, the fifth one here, that ties those two things together. That again, a little bit of work, but very well worth it.
I'm curious, for the guys who are on here watching and for anyone who sees this after, who here is using these strategies? Like, who here, I guess, is using them and succeeding? Who here has tried it and is running into some kind of a wall, and what is the wall you're running into? Just throw in the comments, because we'd be really interested to see if there's like something here maybe in terms of training that we're missing, or something that we could add value. something just to pick this up a little bit more, because these are some of the strategies that are going to take your, Q4 and, add additional percentages to the, top line right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the fifth strategy, right? Yeah, that's number
the last
5.
one. So that's kind of the 5 different things. I definitely think getting these started ASAP is important. If you have some of the stuff already kind of built up and you just need to get some of those steps done, I advise looking over this, getting those steps built out fast, because we're kind of building up into that kind of peak season.
Yeah, fully.
And yeah.
Here, let's do maybe as like a quick little wrap up. Let's just walk through each of the 5, what they are, not go through obviously each of the steps, but what are each of the 5 little aspects that we're covering here?
Perfect.
Just so a little refresh.
Yep, a little refresh. Okay, number 1, Facebook with ManyChat. So creating a Facebook ad, sending it to to ManyChat, and having that ManyChat then flow to your Amazon product. Definitely using a bot sequence in there is going to be smart. Facebook custom audiences. So now narrowing down that Facebook ad that you're doing to a custom audience or lookalike audience. So you're targeting the right customers, the right people. And then Google with ManyChat. So again, kind of taking basically that same Facebook to ManyChat sequence, but using Google. There's a bit more setups in there that you need to do, but a very good additional source of driving external traffic to your Amazon listing, and using ManyChat to kind of walk them through that launch sequence. Custom email sequences, so building out an actual sequence of emails that you're going to have people go through, getting a customer list and funneling them through those sequences. So that's basically keeping them interested in your brand, keeping their eyes or their memory on your brand, and that's that step. And then of course tying in MailChimp, an email system with ManyChat. So having that kind of hybrid system of you have people coming through a flow, you can do ManyChat launch or relaunch efforts, but then you can also tie those into your email sequence so that you have not just your concentrated efforts, but a continued sprinkling of those key keywords getting full conversions for your product.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways this is like sort of 7 strategies, because you've got in there the direct and lookalike for Facebook, and then direct and lookalike for, Google. But then also, especially with the iOS changes and how much that is kind of intentionally, I would say, probably screwed with Facebook. Platforms like Snapchat are seeing more cheaper traffic. Other things that are really interesting here also is that I don't know if you guys got this, but I got a Christmas catalog from Amazon. So here's interesting, because like it's almost, you've got sort of these cycles, right? You had back in the day, I don't know if you remember, but when I was a kid, it was like the highlight of my life to get that stupid JCPenney magazine that, in the beginning you had the toys, and then when your parents weren't looking, you'd flip to the, lingerie section really quick and then flip back to the toys. But all joking aside, but that then faded away. No one did that anymore. Right. And then all of a sudden now you've got Amazon, only it's okay. Yeah. So one of our users is saying that they got one too. Like, if you have name, address, do a mailing.
Yep.
Do a mailing telling people, hey, this is a great Christmas present. It's almost like you've got these cycles, and people are probably going to do the same thing with email. I give it, another year or two before all marketers are saying, oh, email marketing is totally dead. And then in 5 years, people are going to be like doing email marketing again to success. So don't lose track of also that, I guess, the special mention category, which would be actual physical mail. Yeah. Like, the amount of junk I get in my mail is much less.
Yeah, and a key factor on that is, while you have a lot of smart people who have smart predictions, you also have to think with categories of people. There's people,
absolutely,
there's older people, there's
well stated there.
Yeah, there's older people who are used to older systems.
Right.
There's people that are, you know, in their 50s or 40s that are used to certain systems. And then there's people our age. There's, you know, the 17, you know, 22-year-olds right now. They're all thinking with different systems. So think with that.
Yeah.
You know, if your product can relate to people in their older age, okay, a physical mailing might be a great way to get a big boost. Email probably is a great way to get a big boost. If your thing's a widget, you know, a little pop widget, yeah, you're not going to do a physical mailing to people because kids, you know, 17-year-olds and under are going to be interested in little pop-its. So you got to think with that too. Like,
or state this as the perfect gift to get for your kid.
Exactly.
Like, just think like a marketer. Think like the person who would be receiving a piece of mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to go that route. Cool.
Yep.
Good.
There you go.
Okay. Awesome. Well, then we're going to wrap this one up. I hope that you guys got some good value out of these 5/8, you know, different ways to, I guess, revive a product right before Q4, right? Black Friday, Christmas, you know. Also, the interesting thing is, you know, with the supply chain problems that everyone's seeing, you'll be surprised. I bet you a lot of people are going to be digging much deeper into their Christmas list than they intended to at the beginning. With that, let's wrap up. Since we're sending this out all over the place, so Facebook, obviously share, like, do that whole thing. Leave comments on all of this stuff. Let us know areas that, you know, you thought that we missed out on, areas that you thought were really valuable. Let other guys know that, you know, every Thursday we're going to cover something that we see is highly relevant to you as a seller. So with that, I'd say we call it a day, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.